You essentially created the field of Alzheimer's prevention. I mean, you played a
Yeah, I mean, clinically, from a clinical perspective, I think the concept of preventing Alzheimer's or reducing risk of Alzheimer's from like a science or research perspective, there's epidemiological studies and, cohort studies and, that kind of thing where you look back in a data set and try to figure out what risk factors. So, that was, the path was laid before me, and those people that came before me, like, allowed me to practice in the way that I did. But in terms of like clinical management and like actually seeing a patient for Alzheimer's prevention, yeah, that was the beginning.
a freaking legend.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Hey.
And also, I mean, back at the very beginning of my journey when I was going through it with my mom, back at those early, those initial diagnoses, I felt completely in the dark until I stumbled upon your work, wandering the halls of Weill Cornell.
Yeah.
And you were giving a seminar there on the clinical practice of dementia prevention. And I had not seen previous to my stumbling upon your work, those two words used in the same sentence, dementia prevention. And now I feel like it's fairly commonplace that people are talking about it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to use the term ubiquitous, but it like almost is.
Amazing.
It's like it's okay to talk about dementia prevention. Conceptually, we have to promise not to overpromise. Whether it's 4 out of every 10 cases are preventable, specifically of Alzheimer's, it's probably 50 or 60% if you want to look at some of the newest data coming out, and that, that'll shake out at some point. But there's a lot of people that can do everything right and still get dementia, still get Alzheimer's, still get, there's Lewy body, Parkinson's disease. We now, after a decade of doing this, we now study all diseases together: Lewy body dementia, Parkinson's disease, and Alzheimer's disease. And the only way to do this is to study them all together. And actually, to be very honest, one of the reasons why I think this way is because of managing you and your mom. I mean, getting to know you and your mom, and Kathy is just amazing. So she'd be very proud, Max. I was driving on La Cienega, and we got little empty boxes on the walls everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, I know that guy.
That's right. You are a star of my documentary.
Thanks so much. I was younger. What happened? Now we're younger, we're older, and
Same.
What are you going to do? By seeing people with not your typical Alzheimer's pathology, Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, and by studying all of these people together, that's how we can really have the most impact. So you were actually among the first clinical cases and families that I took care of that wasn't cookie cutter Alzheimer's disease.
Well, it's become so common these days.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, big headlines were made when it was revealed that Robin Williams had been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia.
Yeah.
I think most recently in the celebrity sphere, Bruce Willis was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. So it's definitely, I think, permeating the pop culture sphere in a way that's helping to draw attention to this field and how important it is to find real solutions, because drug trials have a dismal success rate. We have seen over the past 2 years that there is plenty of controversy within the field, even fraud. And so it's really great to have scientists with your integrity really pushing the envelope forward in a rigorous, scientifically backed way.
Yeah, and I think there's like these umbrella terms like dementia, right? And the common form of dementia is Alzheimer's. But you could have a patient that has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, and when you look at the brain after they pass away, they had something different. So I think neurodegenerative diseases, could be and should be studied together when possible. And we started this, what I thought was an Alzheimer's prevention clinic, and like 20% of the people that came into the Alzheimer's prevention clinic thinking they were coming to try to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's ended up having a family history of Lewy body dementia or Parkinson's disease. And like, okay, well, then we're going to study this together. We're going to try to make inroads. And if we're going to develop blood tests for one, let's try to find blood tests for all, and early diagnostics for one, and early diagnostics for all. Treatments for one, let's try treatments for all. And I think that's conceptually going to just fast forward progress.
Was there a point in your career where it really dawned on you that the solution to these kinds of conditions might not necessarily be found in the brain, might be, perhaps identifiable via blood biomarkers?
Yeah. So, I think you and I have maybe talked about this, and I haven't talked about this too much, like, in like a public setting. This is being recorded. Okay. I believe Alzheimer's disease is a medical condition. It's a medical illness. Medical things in the body can affect the brain. And when people have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood sugar, and those risk factors are uncontrolled, those vascular risk factors are uncontrolled, you can have what is called in medical speak is end organ damage. And end organ damage means like the kidney, for example. The blood vessels in the kidney, they have clogging of the arteries, and the kidneys don't work. Kidney failure leading to dialysis, and the kidneys shut down. You have other organs in the body that can also be affected, and the brain is just another organ. So I believe Alzheimer's disease is a medical condition. And those amyloid proteins and tau tangles, those are unique biological factors that are associated with the disease. They're biomarkers. They're diagnostic helpers. Are they the cause? Are they downstream effect? Like I don't know that I know. So I'm just going to be open-minded. I'm going to go into this agnostic, and I'm not going to just say it's the anti-amyloid drugs are going to be the answer, or the tau drugs are going to be, or the exercise is going to be, or the GLP-1, or this drug, or that diet, or hormone replacement. I think in the right person, at the right dose, and not just dose of medicine, but dose of exercise, dose of green leafy vegetables. Each person needs a personalized plan based on their own individual risk factors, their genetics. And this is like what we do in cancer nowadays, right? We do genetic tests, we do blood tests. You see those commercials, right? This person with this specific cancer gets this specific therapy, and this negative, and that positive, and that's the future of Alzheimer's. That's the future of neurodegenerative disease. And these blood tests now, this is the future. We can detect proteins in the blood that will allow us to see when in the past we were blind.
And why is early detection so important?
So Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases start in the brain decades before the first symptom of memory loss begins. I've said that a lot. You've said that a lot. We've both said that. It's weird me saying that to you because I feel like you say that a lot now too. I don't know who said it first, but I've said that now in your apartment. You've said that in my apartment. We've been recording videos for over a decade.
Well, you've definitely said it first.
Cool, thank you. Well, you know what you said first? Exercise like miracle grow for the brain. BDNF. Did I steal that from you?
Possibly.
I think I stole that. I've been stealing. I steal stuff from you. I just want to be honest.
There's a collaboration.
Okay, exactly. So you're the wind beneath my wings. There we go.
I've taken a lot from you on the record.
Oh, no, same.
Yeah, you are my mentor in so many ways.
Right on, man. Right on. So Alzheimer's and these diseases, they start decades before silently, either in the brain or in the body. Parkinson's disease can start in the gut, right? Lewy body dementia, all these different disorders. And these proteins, like I can't believe, like I haven't even talked to you about this stuff, but we just spent a lot of money. This is, by the way, there's no grants that I can apply for to pay for the types of equipment and the testing and the we built a freaking lab. Like I'm a clinical neurologist. I see patients. Like I had to build a lab and buy new equipment that's never been used before in this sort of way to try to detect these proteins. And it's not just amyloid and tau, but we look at all sorts of different things. Like you may have talked on this podcast about alpha-synuclein. Alpha-synuclein is a protein that builds up in the brain of people with Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia. And we're trying to look at blood markers and multiple different blood markers. And then we do a skin biopsy, and depending on where the alpha-synuclein is in the skin, whether it's just in the neck or in the neck and the upper thigh and the lower thigh, like this is crazy, but we can diagnose Parkinson's versus Lewy body depending on where the alpha-synuclein is built up in the skin. That's crazy. So that's a diagnostic test. You can use a blood marker, though, to detect something. Then you do an intervention, and the intervention works or it doesn't based on the improvement or lack thereof of the biomarker. So what we're trying to develop now, which is sounds like science fiction, but it's actually real, and we're gonna do something we've never done before. You're gonna do the first on camera, on podcast, self-administered finger prick test for neurodegenerative disease.
Wow, I'm so excited.
In our research study. Already been consented, signed all the forms, signed on the dotted line. What number were you in our first study?
I think I was in the teens.
Yeah,
Was I
were you
not?
12? I don't remember. You were definitely early on.
Maybe I was before. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like 115 now, so.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
You're a little late this time. But,
Guinea pig.
Yeah, but this is the first time anyone's been actually able to do it on themselves because now we have a new arm of the study. But anyway, so using these blood proteins, we're trying to create what I colloquially call a cholesterol test for the brain. Just like everyone knows their total cholesterol, their HDL, which is the good cholesterol, and the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and triglycerides. You have all these different, alphabet soup names that people are familiar with. Going to do the same exact thing, having this cholesterol test for the brain, where we're going to check amyloid and tau and neurofilament light and all these other proteins, GFAP and TDP43 and oligo-alpha-synuclein and phosphorylated alpha-synuclein, and then we'll get a baseline. And then we'll tell you to do something to reduce your risk, like exercise more or eat more Mediterranean style. Or, you know what, maybe you have a big belly, and as the belly size gets larger, the memory center in the brain gets smaller. You don't have a big belly. But if someone did, and we put them on one of these weight loss drugs, these GLP-1s that's used for diabetes and weight loss, there's a ton of data that suggests that people who've been taking these drugs by mouth, because these drugs have been around for decades, most people aren't aware of that. They think the new weight loss drug is new. No, it's injectable now. It's been around in an oral form for decades. Those people that took it had a lower likelihood of developing dementia and Alzheimer's. So if your doctor is going to prescribe you a weight loss or diabetes drug, why not check the blood biomarkers before and after? And that's the goal of our research now, to try to really evaluate the effectiveness of risk reduction therapy in an individual person. That's called an N of 1 trial, where the person is an N of 1, meaning one person in their own research study, and they use themselves as their own control. So that's how we do this now.
And the big hurdle, the primary hurdle in the field of neurology has been that by the time somebody is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease, you're essentially already in late stage disease, right? And so how this ties into prevention, these early identifiable biomarkers, is that it gives you an opportunity to intervene years, maybe even decades earlier than the emergence of symptoms.
And it's our goal to get as many people in the hopper as possible. We had a wait list of hundreds of people when we were in New York. Now I'm down in Florida, and we just had a lot of media with CNN did this documentary on our work, and we had thousands of people reach out to us. And I want people to still reach out, and I want people to sign up for it's a nonprofit foundation, sign up for our newsletter, because one day we're going to get enough funding that we can take these little finger prick card tests, and one day we can democratize access to this type of care. It shouldn't just be that you and I know each other for over a decade. I'm going to the airport and I'm going to stop by and we're going to do it, right? That's cool, but this should be available to anyone. And we're a mission-driven organization where we're trying to offer these tests at cost. These cards are $11, and then processing and whatever. Getting a blood test for Alzheimer's disease, first of all, needs to be valid. So we need to prove that this works. That's number one. So we got to prove a bunch of stuff. And then if it's valid, we got to bring the cost down. We got to democratize access to care. So, go to ind.org, Institute for Neurodegenerative Diseases.org. ind.org is where you can sign up for a newsletter, get educated about this stuff, free videos, free stuff. And one day I hope that everyone that wants to do this and join a research study can do this. And this is just all about, raising funds and raising awareness.
What would you say are the most important biomarkers to keep tabs on, I guess validation of these metabolic specific Alzheimer's and Parkinson's related biomarkers, the more the biomarkers that are maybe more related to metabolic health and the like.
Yeah. So I wonder what people are thinking I'm going to say, but I'm going to say things like blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol levels like LDL cholesterol. Those things are super important. If you want to slam the brakes on Alzheimer's, then control your cholesterol and manage it in a specific way. And there's a lot of nuance to that, and that's a little confusing. But blood pressure, 120s over 70s or below. Diabetes, twice the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Insulin resistance, risk factor for Parkinson's disease. So the things that anyone can do right now, go buy a blood pressure cuff, go talk to your doctor about getting a blood sugar test, and talk to your doctor about getting a cholesterol test. Those are simple things. A homocysteine level. Homocysteine is an amino acid in the blood. Higher the homocysteine, the faster the progression of shrinkage of the brain, called atrophy. And if you can use a simple B-complex vitamin, right, you can drive down the homocysteine, and you can actually improve memory in people that have some memory trouble and slow shrinkage of the brain. That's pretty cool stuff. So these are biomarkers that anyone can get. Omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are great. They're brain protective. But if you use omega-3 fatty acids, DHA and EPA, once you already have symptoms of dementia, they're not going to really move the needle. But pre-symptomatically, especially in people with the ApoE4 variant, ApoE4 is a gene you've talked about a lot. This is a gene that increases risk. Just because you increase risk doesn't mean you're going to get a disease. I'm going to quote Max Lugavere, or was this me? Genes are not your destiny. You can win the tug of war against your genes. Who came up with that one?
I don't know.
It was one of us.
It's all a blur at this point.
Yeah. So these simple blood tests that any doctor can order, and also there's like online ways to do this too. These are the types of things that people can do. It's not a fancy amyloid blood test right now. It's not the tau, and there will be, and we will be there. And our goal is to fast forward that. But people should know their percent body fat. People should know their waist circumference. People should know how much muscle mass they have. People should know their numbers about who they are, and then they can optimize those in a precision way. And those are the types of brain biomarkers that I think of most, in fact.
Do you ever check for nutrient deficiencies? Like, I think back in the day, didn't you put me on like a vitamin D?
Yeah, great question.
Maybe.
Vitamin D is important. People with 2 copies of the ApoE4 variant, I'm even more cautious about it. People with 1 copy, though, too. I think, our reference ranges on labs are all broken. Below 30 is low. That's what people say, right? That's what the labs say. Yeah, for Alzheimer's and brain protection, like 40 to 50 is probably better. And for someone with 2 copies of the ApoE4 variant, which is 1% of the population, you can check it on 23andMe, check it from a doctor. Maybe a level of 50. Vitamin D is better. So, this concept of precision medicine and personalized care is key. So, yeah, I think vitamin D, cocoflavanols we use a lot. I've been using, I have nothing to disclose, but Cocovia, cocoa powder. I was living in South Beach in 2001, and there was a CVS on 14th and Alton that I used to go, and it was like so expensive. This like Cocovia, they had these chocolate bars back then, and it was like so expensive, but it was so good, and I think there was like blueberries in it. So like I've been having Cocovia in my diet, in my my coffee for 20 years. That is crazy. And Cocovia can also help if someone, for example, has some insulin resistance, or blood pressure's borderline, and cocoflavanols can be protective. So there's knowing your numbers and knowing your blood pressure or insulin levels or fasting blood sugar, you then personalize the intervention, and that's how we can really make big strides.
Yeah, one thing that I've definitely taken from you is that there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all diet or supplement regimen.
Yep. Yeah, I wish there was, at a cocktail party. I don't go to those too much anymore, but I haven't been to a cocktail party probably since before COVID. But, those are the types of questions you used to get. And, exercise is by far the number one thing a person can do to reduce their risk. But different types of exercise, it's personalized, right? You have muscles. You're strong. It's good.
Have I put on muscle since the last time you've seen me?
When I first met you, you were like this scrawny little kid.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you watch Little Empty Boxes over the course of the filmmaking, I get more jacked as the film progresses.
Was it those ropes? I think it was the ropes. I'm giving the ropes.
It might have been the ropes. Yeah, battle ropes.
Battle ropes.
Yeah.
Where you turned me on to battle ropes.
I've always loved those.
Yeah,
those are great.
But building muscle mass in men is critical. Knowing your numbers. You're. Actually, we should check your stuff. It's been a little while. We're going to do some fun experimentation here. Again, this is a research study, so it's it's not super definitive. We still need to get a real blood draw on you at some point, and more cognitive tests. We haven't done that stuff in a while, but knowing your numbers, and if you have high body fat, reducing it through personalized recommendations of exercise. Zone 2 training is lower heart rate, 60 to 65% of your maximum heart rate. Sometimes it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter, and lower intensity cardio can actually be in the fat burning mode sometimes. Higher intensity, gets your heart stronger, increases your VO2 max, which is also great for longevity. But you got to kind of have a balance, and strength training is also critical. But to do strength training, you also have to eat enough protein. So there's just so many factors, and one day I just hope it's like kind of, way of things rather than the exception, not the rule.
Do you have a top 3 favorite brain foods?
First thing is somewhere between green leafy vegetables, based on a data-driven answer, and fatty fish like trout, mackerel, herring, albacore, tuna, wild salmon, sardines. Tuna once a week, not too much, but wild salmon a couple times a week, twice a week, say. Green leafy vegetables, and what's my top 3? I don't know. I guess it's the opposite. It's just like not processed foods.
Yeah.
Anything but processed foods. Like just like no, please.
What's funny? I was listening back to an early interview that I did with Martha Claire Morris, the late great Martha Claire Morris, inventor of the Mind Diet, of course. And I thought one thing that was really interesting in the interview is that she was actually a huge fan of eggs, even though eggs are not officially recommended as part of the Mind Diet. She was like, well, they're a really nutrient dense food.
Yeah, choline and protein.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm pro eggs. I just, it's funny, like a decade ago, I didn't know. So I think I said I can't remember now in our little diet plan, I don't know, 4 eggs a week, 6 eggs. I'm forgetting. Like I'm not anti-eggs in any way, shape, or form, but I don't know the exact right dose. And it may depend on the person, but I don't know that I figured that out. But I eat a fair amount of eggs.
Yeah, eggs are great.
Yeah.
That choline's important.
Yep.
All right, so what are we going to test for today?
Yeah, so this is a research study where we are trying to validate a panel of brain biomarker proteins in the tip of your finger. And no, this is not Theranos. This is a research study that we're trying to use a new type of technology, and actually I'll just say technologies, that can amplify brain proteins in a way that can be detectable from a small amount of blood. For Theranos joking aside, this was not possible during the Theranos day. Like the technology just wasn't there. Like we are going to get it's not 1 drop of blood. I also want to be very full disclosure about that. This is multiple drops of blood on multiple cards, and we don't know how many cards we need. We don't know a lot of things, but I hope this is just inning number 1 or inning number 2 of a 9-inning baseball game, and I'm glad we're in the game rather than just thinking about playing the game. So we're gonna get some blood samples on you.
Yeah.
I'll give you a grand tour. This is the little Lancet. It's a finger prick thing. We're gonna have you pull this out. And
I've done this before for I had a glucometer.
Yeah.
For a bit, and I was like pricking my finger just to see what my blood sugar was doing. This is like prior to the availability of CGMs.
Yeah. Totally. Remember those days.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be over the counter one of these days, CGMs. They're available over the counter, and
the FDA just approved them.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. For normoglycemic individuals, which is interesting.
Okay, so
you're looking at traces of amyloid, and
well, actually, amyloid is. I have a low likelihood of success. My prediction on will this be a valid way to assess brain proteins? Amyloid is actually going to be very hard, almost impossible. I'm not bullish on these types of tests being able to detect amyloid, because they are just in such small amounts in the blood. There are other proteins though that I'm more bullish on. Potentially as a screening test. And we have a whole panel of over 100 blood biomarkers we're looking at, and we've just put our database and our registry is amazing. We have really well characterized people. But long story short, I actually don't think it's going to be amyloid. I think it's going to be a couple of others that I'm really intrigued by. And the goal here would be, if these are elevated, or maybe we'll give a result back that's green, yellow, red. If it's red, that means you need another test. I wouldn't say that these are going to be confirmatory tests, but this is kind of going to be like an initial screen.
Interesting.
So,
and what potentially might it confirm? That there's an excess of a biomarker associated with Alzheimer's disease in the blood. Okay.
Or Lewy body or Parkinson's. So let's go. And I don't want to get too crazy, because these are early days, but let's see. And then if
the goal would be to find longitudinally to see how my health fares over the long term.
Yeah, well, change over time is critical. So it's not just necessarily one time point, but if you see it going up and up and up, and if the tests are valid enough to detect change, again, we have to figure this stuff out. But to basically, just like you track cholesterol, and then eventually you may treat it, track blood pressure, and then eventually treat it, and then you treat it, and then you see how the blood pressure do, how the cholesterol do. This is the very early days with that.
Got it.
So
Cool.
okay, so I've never done this before. You haven't either.
In the name of science,
I am
down.
going to. This is optional, but I'm going to do it. Just you want to do it? Let's not do it. I don't think we're going to use this. This is
Okay.
a tourniquet. Like if you have trouble getting blood, you
Yeah.
can just like wrap it around your arm. But I'm not going to use this
No,
now.
I think it'll be all right.
This is the alcohol swab. Which
Swab.
are you left-handed, or right-handed?
I'm left-handed.
So let's do the right hand. And
Right hand, okay.
And you can do. I'm gonna have you do it
Okay.
yourself. I'll actually do the sides because it's gonna be less painful on the sides.
Oh, the sides.
Yep,
I didn't know
sides
that.
are better. Okay,
Wow.
great. That's enough. That's good.
Okay.
And just let it dry. And then we'll put your fingers over here so we don't get blood all over your nice table.
Here, let me like also,
Yeah.
because I'm going to use this finger to squeeze it.
Okay, cool. And then we're gonna do. Got your Band-Aid ready. And this is like a finger prick. This is like not that big of a deal, but
Right.
basically what you'll do is push this on the side of your finger, push down, push it in, and then just push the little button. So I'll have you do that.
All right.
And then push it on your
Like
side.
there?
Yeah, push. Yeah, and push down with the white. Yeah, push both. There we go, and take it out, and then just start.
2 drops of blood.
Yeah, just try to fill up the whole white area with blood. So that hurt? That okay?
No, it didn't hurt too bad.
Great.
Make sure to take the mic with me.
Okay.
I'm
And
not
so
really
you
getting
can-
a
you
ton
can
of blood,
pick-
though.
You can pick this up, maybe. There you go. And then just try to squeeze, and
All right.
there we go.
I don't know.
Oh no! Don't drop it. Just like touch it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just like that?
Yeah. Keep going. You need to squeeze your finger a little more. Okay, it's the first time we've ever done this.
I think I need to do
so-
the tip of my finger.
Oh, that'll hurt.
It's okay. Here, let me get you got another.
Okay, we're gonna go round 2.
Yeah.
Round 2.
My blood is not.
Huh,
Doesn't
that's
seem to be.
that's strange. Okay, let me
I don't mind a little bit of finger prick. Yeah.
Where was it? Oh, you use the tip?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be okay. Let me do this time. Oh yeah, it's working just fine. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then squeeze it.
There we go.
There we go, and
bit
hold it
more.
up. Yeah, I think you just didn't get a good press.
Is that enough?
Fill it up. Fill up the white spot. So again, this is multiple drops. It's like 2 to 3, 3 to 4 big drops on each card. Keep milking. There we go.
Man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be able. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fill it.
Let me see. Keep going. Okay, good. You're good. Oh, and then take it off, and then make the blood come out. It's coming.
Yeah.
There we go. And just keep doing it that way.
Okay.
So milk it gets a little drop.
I gotta fill up 4 cards with this.
I mean, you're a rookie over here. Amateur. This is amateur hour. I could have filled these cards.
Okay,
in
wait.
one
Getting a
prick.
little more. Getting a little more.
There we go. Look at that. And just position the card so it's like. There we go. Look at that.
Oh yeah, we're getting more.
There we go. Easy peasy. So I'll walk you through this. Basically, after you do this, you let it dry for a couple of minutes, then you peel back the little thing, and then basically there's like sponges underneath the card. It sucks up all the plasma, and so it takes keeps the red cells like out mostly, and then great, you're done. Next card.
Okay.
Wasn't too bad, right?
Now, are these cards going to show anything, or you got to take them back to a lab?
Oh no, we got to take them back to the lab. Yeah.
Okay.
So I will be hopefully TSA lets me take them back in my suitcase, and
If your blood is not flowing, it could be a sign of dehydration, right?
nah, not so much in a finger prick necessarily. More so when you get up like a blood draw. But actually, your blood is totally flowing fine. Yeah,
Is it?
That looks good. Okay, next card.
There. Okay.
Yeah, great. And since this is a research study, we're collecting 4 cards because we don't know how much we're going to need. I hope in the future we'll only need 1 card or maybe 2 cards.
And what are these cards typically used for?
For blood tests for a variety of different things.
Interesting.
You can get a vitamin D check in your blood on a card, and there's lots of different. There's some hormone tests that you can do from home.
Wow, blood is flowing.
Yep, now you got it. Okay, then here's your Band-Aid.
4th card.
Look at that. That was easy.
Yeah.
So instead of, our goal of our research is to democratize access to this care. You had to see me in New York City, and not everyone gets to New York City. Now I'm in Boca Raton, Florida, in South Florida, and that's tricky. I have a practice now at Atria, which is in New York City, which is a practice that's trying to, kind of practice at the intersection between science and medicine, where you really have a preventative mindset from day one, and practicing an environment like that where you're thinking preventative and you have resources to do that, and you can use the intersection between clinical research and care. That's amazing, but that's really hard to find. So our goal of our foundation at ind.org is to try to validate these tests and bring the cost down and mail them out to people, so people don't just have to travel and spend money on airfare and get an expensive blood test and blood draws and things like that. So this is again, early days.
Who are the people that are most at risk for developing Alzheimer's or dementia more broadly?
Wait, who am I going to quote again? Anyone with a brain is at risk for Alzheimer's disease. Was that you or me?
I've got some bangers.
That was you?
I think that was me.
That was you.
Yeah.
I love this. I remember when these quotes came out for the first time.
You and I were like a tag team for a long time.
Yeah, we went on the road
on the Dr. Oz show. Remember that?
Yeah. And remember University of Illinois, and we went on like an Antiques Roadshow.
So fun. Dr. Oz, he gets a lot of flack, but I'm so proud of the segments that we did together on his show. They were always so buttoned up, so evidence based.
Yeah. I love that. I love Dr. He's just the man.
Yeah.
He's I think he's okay with me saying this. It's being recorded. He's been public. We did his genetics live on television, so he's in the study.
His mother has Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, of course.
She's in Turkey.
Yeah,
and is suffering from Alzheimer's.
Of course, yeah.
So I know he's very interested in this topic.
Yep. And we did the genetic testing and gave the genetic test results live, on his show. And a little surreal to have both Dr. Oz and Dr. Sanjay Gupta in the research study, my two TV doctor idol kind of people. But anyway, being able to have a platform to kind of talk about these things, especially back then when people didn't talk about this like at all on any medium or anything. So it's been helpful. I'm supposed to at 3 minutes tear the page away, tear the sticker away. Has it been 3 minutes?
I think it's been about 3 minutes. Yeah.
3 minutes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do this. There we go. It dried.
This is so cool.
Now I'll let it dry for 15 minutes.
Whoa.
Is
there anything that this is going to tell you, or nothing? You gotta get it back to a lab.
No, we have really fancy equipment we need to use that have to run it on. And
so these little sponges, for people listening, there's like these sponges underneath the blood blot pad, and so is this collecting plasma? Is that what that is?
The goal is to standardize the amount of plasma that gets sucked out from the card, and if it's standardized, there's I'm not an expert on this. Chris Janney in our lab, he's doctor, he does this stuff, and he will do some sort of, I don't know, something with the hydration and the calibration and I don't know, things that I don't really fully understand in any way, shape, or form. So dilution, I don't know, whatever it is. And basically it's something nanoliters and this, and then we put it into this, and I don't know, it's above my pay grade.
Science fiction.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. And it's automated now, which is crazy. In the past, you'd have to have I don't know, a whole, rooms of equipment. Now it's we have one piece of equipment that sits on a desktop, and you plug in the cassette and it goes do-do-do-do, and 8 hours later, you get some results. It's really weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
it's costly. It's expensive. Even though these are cheap, to run the cassettes, it's $10,000 a pop, and you can run 86 samples at a time.
Wow.
For $10,000. Then you have to sequence it. The costs are not trivial, but the goal is to figure out which of the 100-something biomarkers are the most important, and then not have to do 100 on every sample at every time point, and choose 5, and then it brings the cost down. So that's why we're trying to bring in money to do stuff like that.
And is the goal for a subject such as myself to repeat these tests every year or so, or?
Don't know. We're learning. Yeah, I don't know. Is that an age-dependent question? Is that an ApoE4-dependent question? I would say anybody with an ApoE4 variant should get a baseline blood biomarker test that assesses brain proteins. I would say at the latest, probably age 40 as a baseline. Just like we get a cholesterol test, probably 30s is maybe okay too. Maybe 30 is a little too young. Maybe 30. You joined when you were 35. I feel like you were
younger. I was
32. That's right. 32.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Alzheimer's prevention for 30-somethings with no symptoms, the headline, of course. So, yeah, I think these are the things we need to figure out. And, is it every year? I don't know. Is it every 2 years? I don't know. It depends on the person's risk. And then if a person has anything that's borderline or unclear, that's when you have to go deeper. And those are, confirmatory tests. There's spinal taps and PET scans. And, you only want to do those when you really need to, because PET scans have radiation, spinal taps. These are costly tests, and they're tests. They're invasive.
Yeah. Do you do cognitive testing as well?
Yeah. So you were one of the OGs.
I hated doing those.
Everyone hates those. Everyone hates those. I don't know. I don't.
They took so long, and they were so.
Well, we have software now to do it, which is cool. And we got the NIH funding study at retainyourbrain.com. That's basically an NIH-funded study where people could join and take a risk assessment and take cognitive tests on the comfort, from the comfort of their own phone, and basically get automated advice, using kind of machine learning, artificial intelligence, if you want to put it that way. But basically, it can guide you through a risk assessment. And the good news is we had a 1,000-person study. Well, that filled really quickly. Then we launched a 1,500-person study, and that filled in 48 hours after the CNN thing aired, the documentary, The Last Alzheimer's Patient. So it's great. We hit 2,500 people, but you still need personnel to deal with questions and whatever. So one day the software is going to be an answer, and one day hopefully we'll have software that pairs with at-home blood testing, and that's how you scale care and democratize access at lower cost and get out there to underrepresented communities and communities that don't have money to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's so important. Is there a degree of forgetfulness that is par for the course of normal aging?
Yeah, so I'd say it depends on what do you mean by forgetfulness? So,
well, it's like
a lack of attention. That's the problem. If someone is texting and someone has bzz, bzz, bzz all the time, and the TV's blaring, and you're doing 100 things at once and multitasking, yeah, you can forget things, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a pathological thing. That's a welcome to the digital age thing, right? So true forgetfulness, having a name, person's name. Oh, what's that guy's name? Oh, yeah, I met him here. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, but then you remember it later. That's okay. That's not too worrisome. But if that happens a lot, losing keys, losing your cell phone, there's a lot of nuance with what a cognitive change is. And that's why, getting a baseline cognitive assessment one day, this will all be phone-based and digital. Doing a baseline cognitive assessment is helpful, but there's a lot of nuance with what is a worrisome cognitive change versus not.
And at what point should one seek the help of a neurologist?
Yeah, so if a person is noticing changes in a loved one or a family member or friend, and those changes are progressive, and the person has a family history of Alzheimer's or other related dementia, and they have vascular risk factors, and they're above the age of 60, for example, well, that's easier to see a neurologist, because it's easier because it's more recognized that there could be a problem. I think the challenge here in the gray area, with your mom was in her 50s. She was young. When, we started seeing your mom, something was weird. What's happening here? How is this happening? She's too young. It doesn't make sense. So anytime a person is worried about another person's cognitive function or their own cognition, they should be seen. But because our medical system is so completely broken, people just don't get the type of attention, and people in their 40s and 50s that may have something real just don't get it recognized. So I think seeking care anytime is critical. You can have a vitamin deficiency, a thyroid problem. There's lots of things. You get depression, pseudodementia of depression. You can have an attention issue. There's so many things that can cause cognitive problems, even in the 40s and 50s. Not usually 40s, but sometimes in the 50s, but usually 60s and 70s is when, these things kind of take hold, and the medical system is more prepared for that, especially people above the age of 65, because of Medicare in the United States pays for a lot of these things. The annual wellness visit, Medicare's annual, evaluation, now, this is new from 10 years ago, requires a cognitive screen. That's good. But our medical system is so broken that the cognitive screen is 2 minutes. Doctors get paid for like a 15-minute interval, and then you have to go to the next patient. Like that, how do you do that? Like you can't do that. That's impossible. The reimbursements are so low. We have a sick care health system. We don't have a preventative wellness, system. There is no diagnostic code for Alzheimer's prevention. I'm a preventive neurologist, and like that field doesn't exist. Why? Because there's no way to get paid for it. At Weill Cornell and New York Presbyterian, we were there. I lost tons of money. There's no diagnostic codes to get reimbursed. So the challenge here is that even if there is a problem, the medical system is set up for failure. But at least if there's a problem and a symptom, there's a diagnostic code for memory loss. So at least the physician can get paid. When someone wants to get ahead of things and doesn't have a problem, it's even harder.
That's when it gets expensive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And it gets harder to diagnose. Yeah.
Are we seeing prevalence of Alzheimer's increase?
Oh man, this is like my least favorite question. What's the difference between prevalence and incidence? I failed my statistics course. No, the prevalence. Okay, so help me. I got to learn this already. It's been like, I've been a doctor for over 20 years. Like I got to get this straight. So incidence means how many people get it in like a certain population, but prevalence is like the total number, I think.
How prevalent it is, yeah.
So we
I guess as a proportion of the population, but
yeah, I get these confused. But what I'll say in English that I hopefully is correct is, we have an aging population, and age is the number one risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. So if you have an aging population, then basically you have more cases. But I believe in the population as a whole, because we have more attention now on vascular risk factors, treating high blood pressure, treating high cholesterol, treating diabetes, these new weight loss drugs, these GLP-1s, I think that's going to knock down the rate of people with dementia and Alzheimer's and vascular cognitive decline. So, I think there's a balance there between, we're better at modifying risk factors pharmacologically. We're learning more about brain health in terms of lifestyle, though we still have a ways to go. But no matter what, we have an aging population, and that's tricky, especially globally.
I remember back in the day when we were looking at my biomarkers, and we were looking, I think, specifically at lipids like LDL cholesterol. Mm-hmm. There was a distinction between a certain subtype of LDL, pattern A versus pattern B, and there was a certain pattern that was associated with higher risk. Is that borne out?
I just can't believe, we knew a lot then, and we were doing amazing things, but that was like so early. It was so basic. Like I shudder to think that a decade ago, like that was the level of sophistication. I mean, still no one's practicing the way we were 10 years ago, but now it's so much more granular. Particle size of cholesterol is super important. Small dense particles that ping against the blood vessel wall cause inflammation. We used to track LDLP. ApoB is something I've always been interested in you. We also look at, is someone an overproducer of cholesterol or overabsorber? Something called ApoA1, which is a subtype of HDL cholesterol, which whether you're E4 positive or negative, I thought back then it was just E4 positives, but now it may be everybody. The higher that is, the lower the risk of Alzheimer's. There's also LP(a). There is so much nuance and complications here. And then there's desmosterol, which we've been following. So I don't know exactly how to answer this question concisely, but at some point we can do round 2 of this podcast when you get your repeat biomarkers, and maybe we'll get some of these results, even though these are research-based, and maybe we can go through your results and compare them to back in the day.
I remember back in the day you were looking at certain phytosterols as a surrogate indicator of cholesterol absorption in the gut, which I thought was super interesting.
The absorption markers. Yeah. I know a lot more about that now, but I think the production markers are a little bit more relevant for brain now. That's what I've learned, specifically desmosterol. Oversuppression of desmosterol may be worrisome. I'm going to tiptoe around this subject, but is cholesterol good or bad for the brain, right? Who sent me that video? I mean, I get videos sent to me. You know what this is like. Like cholesterol is, it's better. If it's 500, that's protective, right? like there's a lot of confusing things here, and I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers, right? But I am pro statin, but in the right patient at the right dose. And not in everybody. And that is really...
And not necessarily every statin.
Oh, absolutely. And also, does a person really need a statin, or is there's like amazing other drugs now, like plant sterol inhibitors that you can also take a supplement like version of it, like PCSK9. Like there's a lot of nuance and granularity and specificity to the way that we can treat cholesterol now. I knew none of this 10 years ago, but over suppression of desmosterol is something that may be worrisome in certain people, especially ApoE4s. And this is like, how people say, I take a statin, I get brain fog. And a lot of doctors say that's whatever. But like, no, I've seen it. I mean, I believe it. But it's not that common. But it happens. Well, who does it happen in? And why does it happen? Well, maybe it's because of certain people with certain genes. Too high a dose of a statin can suppress something like desmosterol, and then you have the brain fog, right? This is stuff that I'm really interested in. I'm trying to sort out. This is nuance. This is personalized medicine, precision medicine, whatever we call it. But there's nuance here, and we're trying to figure this out. One of the things with statins that I will say is, I hope I get this right, 5 milligrams of Crestor. Let's just get people on the lowest possible dose of a statin, just because we're just not sure. 85%, I think I'm saying this right, 85% of the effect of a statin, of rosuvastatin, which is a hydrophilic statin, 5 milligrams, 85% of the effect on cholesterol lowering is from 5 milligrams. So why go to 20? What? Really? Why? You're just going to keep going up on it? Is that? So if we don't know, and if we're unclear and we're unsure, there are other medicines out there. Problem is, some of those other medicines aren't covered by insurance, and they're injectables. PCSK9 drugs are amazing. Repatha, nothing to disclose. Again, no pharmaceutical, anything, whatever. And I'm forgetting what the non-brand name of Repatha is, but there's multi-year data that shows there's nothing bad happens cognitively using that PCSK9 inhibitor.
Because they enhance LDL clearance by way of the liver, increasing availability of these LDL receptors on the surface of the liver.
Yeah, so it fundamentally it makes sense.
Theoretically, it wouldn't. I mean, again, theoretically, and I don't know if this is more well understood science than I understand it, but it shouldn't impact the brain's cholesterol machinery the way a lipophilic statin might.
Yeah, and the hydrophilic versus lipophilic story is confusing to me, because I thought it was stay away from lipophilic, only use hydrophilic, and then I'm wait a minute, I'm not sure that's correct. So I don't know, but PCSK9s, I got multi-year data that there's no change in cognitive function on people, and I've seen now these are research studies, published studies, but also in my practice, I've never seen a cognitive decrement in my practice. I haven't done too much of this, but on a PCSK9. So I'm not anti or pro anything. I'm pro individualization. I'm pro evidence, and I'm pro trying to treat people better based on their genes and their medical conditions.
There's also probably pleiotropic aspects of these statins.
Oh, totally.
That might confound the...
100% correct.
Right? I mean, statins are anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we just don't know.
Yeah, and again, I've really tried. There is an answer here. I think one has to be cautious about being dogmatic, or I don't know, draconian or whatever the word is. Like all statins are bad or all statins are good. No, usually when someone is saying this is all good or all bad, usually the right answer is somewhere in the middle. And I think from a biological perspective, we're more clear than we used to be, but we're not fully certain.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dogma is never the way forward.
I agree.
I'm not even, with these GLP-1 agonist drugs, these weight loss drugs. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people in our space that are, in my space, that are very anti them because they seem as though they might be an easy way out. But for people who've been struggling with yo-yo dieting their entire lives and they're morbidly obese.
Again, nothing to disclose, no relationships, yada yada, no bias here. I'm going to be honest, GLP-1 drugs can be amazing. I'm going to sound like a broken record, in the right person at the right dose, and if they do the right thing. I'm not going to yell at a family member, but who's maybe been on one of these drugs for a long time and come on, blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to be doing weight training. You're supposed to be doing zone 2. Why aren't you exercising? And what happens on GLP-1s is if you're not building strength, you're not eating sufficient protein, you can lose a fair amount of muscle mass, and I don't like that at all. And then you become like flabby, and your metabolism rate goes down even more. So I won't refill GLP-1s for patients unless they're following the protocol. We use a precision approach. We look at what is their body fat and what is their muscle mass, and we track it before and after. And if you do the right thing, and if you eat enough protein, and if you do strength training 3 times a week for 45 to 60 minutes or more, you don't lose the type of muscle mass that you hear about on the internet. It just doesn't happen. I've never seen, and I hate, sounds dogmatic, but I've never seen a person who's exercising correctly lose a worrisome amount of muscle mass on a GLP-1. So that's what I see.
Well, anybody on a calorie deficit will lose muscle mass unless they're resistance training. So this isn't specific to GLP-1 agonists. I
agree. And I told you, I've experimented with these, and I did an N of 1 experiment on myself where I got a baseline, and my doctor truly gave me a free sample of 4 doses of tirzepatide, 2.5 milligrams. I said, okay, my belly's a little bigger. Okay, I didn't, okay, let me try the sample. I took 3 doses. I can't believe what it did to me. I lost body fat. I jacked up my strength training. I went from 20-ish% body fat, which is just a little higher than it could have been, to 17, and 17 is much better. Now I'm somewhere between 16 and 17, and that works for me. My muscle mass went down by 28%. Of my weight loss was muscle, and I said, it's not terrible, but now I have more muscle than I did when I started it 6 months ago. I only took 3 doses. That's all I needed. But for me, I also looked at my blood biomarkers before and after, because my risk factors, and those results aren't back yet. But for me, it worked because I micromanaged it in a really cautious way. And for me, it worked because I micromanaged it in a cautious way, and under doctor's supervision. And I'm better off for it now. Now my body fat's lower, and I'm not interested in milkshakes anymore and cheeseburgers. I used to have those sometimes, and the GLP-1 kind of reset my brain a little bit. So also my LDL cholesterol, which was never terrible. It was a little borderline. It was 109. Okay, what does that mean? My ApoB was 72. Okay, borderline, not terrible.
That's pretty good.
It's okay. It's good.
An ApoB in the 70s?
Yeah, but 65 or less and 55 is optimal. But I took these GLP-1s for three weeks. Retested my cholesterol. My LDL went from 109 to 60.
Jeez.
In 1 month. I didn't take a cholesterol drug. I took the GLP-1s. GLP-1s have been shown to help with sleep apnea, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, weight loss. Multiple epidemiological studies show that people that take the oral GLP-1s have a lower likelihood of having dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And that's why these oral drugs are being studied in randomized controlled trials for mild cognitive impairment due to Alzheimer's. So the take-home point here is GLP-1s can have, I don't exactly want to say pleiotropic effects, but kind of like multi-system effects.
Yeah.
And that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, though. I mean, if someone is just going to take them as, and eat whatever the heck they want, and that's not okay. And, I didn't do it for cosmetic purposes. I did it because biologically my numbers could have been more optimal. They weren't abnormal, but we've talked about this. The difference between normal and optimal is the core of prevention. Normal or borderline is not okay. If you want to live longer and better and healthier and reduce your risk of neurodegenerative disease, you need to be in the optimal ranges. And now a body fat of 16 or 17, I feel that's optimal. My muscle mass is higher, and GLP-1s help me. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Do you focus on protein in your diet? That's been a big topic as of late within the fitness, wellness, longevity space.
I'd love your input on this. I don't want to say I have a problem putting on muscle. I don't put in the work. I do the best I can.
Well, you're busy doctoring.
No, I run. I like to run. I do a half marathon every year or so. I run. I enjoy running. I was a cross country. But I do weight training twice a week for 30 to 35 minutes. And
you're not a meathead. I get it.
Well, I have trouble eating sufficient protein, and I don't eat that much meat. And that's a complicated question too. like how many grams of protein should I have per day per pound? Like, is it 0.75? Like, is it 0.8? Is it a half? Like, I don't know, but I know that when I eat 100 grams of protein a day, I feel like I gain more muscle more quickly. But it's really hard for me to do that. Like, I'm not the right person because I have trouble eating protein.
I could help you with that.
Yes, there you go. So what do I do, doctor?
For muscle maintenance, you want to hit. So the RDA is 0.8 grams per kilogram
Right.
weight, but that's to avert deficiency.
Right. So that's like 0.4-ish per
0.4
per pound.
grams per pound, roughly.
Which is not enough to build.
0.3 something.
Oh,
it's
okay.
0.3 something.
It's that low. Wow. That's not enough. Yeah.
But to maintain and optimize muscle protein synthesis, you want to hit generally 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. So that equates to about 0.72 grams per pound.
I do I'm trying to do 0.75, but my gosh, it's hard.
Do you do protein shakes? Do you do?
So I have this. Well, now you're my therapist. So I don't do artificial sweeteners or I can't do stevia because I have a headache situation. So. I can't do monk fruit. I have an issue with it, major issue, because it has.
I don't mind the taste of unsweetened, unflavored whey protein.
Yeah.
Do you do dairy?
Yeah, I'm totally fine. I had a lot of dairy.
You can mix it. You could throw some blueberries in there.
I know. I'm just like the whole blender situation. That's like really time consuming.
Yeah.
Cleaning the blender. I know this sounds ridiculous, but
blender bottle. You have a blender bottle in your house?
I could probably get a blender bottle.
I probably have some extras. I'm
going to put no, they're going to kick me out of the plane if I have blood cards and a blender bottle. But you can nail me one.
It's like this guy like a vampire or something. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, one of the things that I think one aspect of my documentary Little Empty Boxes that makes it particularly heartbreaking is that my mom throughout is acutely aware of her cognitive decline and she suffers as a result. But I've heard from people who've come to the screenings that patients with Alzheimer's disease generally are not aware.
Yeah, it depends on where the disease is hitting. So your mom's frontal lobes were working or working better than other parts. And that's a direct result of the pathology of the disease. So, people with frontotemporal dementia, for example, have a lack of awareness of their condition. It's like classic. They have funny behaviors. They act weird. They don't know what's going on. And sometimes they're happy as a clam and they don't know anything. It's harder on the families, but the patient's not bothered by it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it depends on, this is like I'm generalizing a little bit, but I think that's accurate. And just knowing your mom and talking to her, like a video in my mind, I remember hearing, I remember that office with the orange wall, she was very aware, and that's heartbreaking and it's painful. So it's kind of like, it's called, I hate this term, but pleasantly demented. People that have dementia that are unaware of their problems, are living in a world of bliss, and it's because their frontal lobes are not aware of the problem. And Alzheimer's pathology spreads out, and it goes it's called Brock and Brock stages. I think it's 6 stages, and it goes out, and once that amyloid and all the proteins gunk up that part, and you lose awareness.
Wow. Yeah, because I know that my mom had begun seeing a neurologist before I stepped in to accompany her to doctor's appointments, but it's often, or from my vantage point, it seems to be often the case that it's the family members that bring in the patient.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is crazy to me. Yeah. Well, what's next for you, and how can people support your work?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I try not to be an asker, but I need help actually more than usual. Why do I need help? I'm blessed. I have a job. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a happy family and a partner and all that kind of stuff. I paid off my student loans last year, which is amazing after 22 years. So my life is okay, but our research is undercapitalized, and it's how do I put it? We have so much potential now to reach people at such a drastically lower cost that every few $1,000s, if I had a magic $1 million that appeared in our research account tomorrow, what we could do with that money to fast forward progress is just striking. So I think what's happened is, in the past we used to invest heavily in brain imaging because we had to prove that the things that we were doing were improving brain volumes or amyloid or whatever. Those were very expensive. We needed $10 million of NIH grants for that. Nowadays, we don't need that. These blood tests are much more cost effective. We just need greater scale, and we need to reach more people. And we don't have the personnel and the funding for that. So I will make an ask, and this is a very uncommon thing for me to do, but yeah, if there's someone out there, you have a wealthy uncle, like whatever, go to ind.org, and just, so, first of all, I don't care if someone donates. Like if someone wants to learn, just sign up. All the newsletters are free. Everything on there is free resources, free education, free whatever. But, if someone has the capacity to help, we could use it. We take donations on the website. If, 100,000 people donated $10 each, that's $1 million. Like that's a lot of money for us. We don't need $10 million anymore. We need like a couple of million. And that will allow us to reach so many people. So yeah, I think that's the best way. And, we're a mission-driven organization. We want to help advance research. The place that I see some patients for now is through Atria, and Atria is an organization that's trying to kind of combine science and medicine and kind of helping underwrite some of this work. So I'm thankful that I have some partners, but I need more, and I need more help. So
you're famously not on social media, but is there any, I guess, ind.org, people can contact you if they so choose?
ind.org. We have an email list. We don't have like a big. I don't want to say I'm anti. I have a non-interest or PTSD from social media stuff. But ind.org is really the way to stay in touch and as Max Lugavere would say, allow us to, when we do, spread the message far and wide.
Spread the message far and yes, amen. Well, I know you got to catch a flight. Last question that gets asked everybody on the show. What does living a genius life mean to you?
Oh, wow. I wonder how I answered it last time. I like this different now. Living a genius life is giving back to the world as much as you can with staying in balance with the loved ones around you. I'm a parent now. I have like 2 little girls, and it's hard. I can't be like hard charging. Like, when 10 years ago, my better half was living in Pasadena, California. I'm living in New York City, and every other weekend I'm on JetBlue, like back and forth. And, I was working like a dog and always doing and always whatever. I can't do that anymore. I got bedtime at 8:00 and I get up at 6 o'clock. I gotta walk the dogs and the kids. So, living a genius life is, trying to contribute as much as possible, but somehow also being there for the family and keeping things in balance. And that's hard.
Love that. Amen. Love you, Richard. You're the man.
No, you're the man.
So glad we got to
put your, I need to write your ML.
There you go.
ML. That's you. ML. Great.
ML.
Love it.
Thanks for popping in. I'm excited to see the results and to keep tabs on the research. Super exciting and important stuff.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Love you, brother. I'm here.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.